Apple Intelligence keynote from June 2024 with commentary. Let's jump right in.
We've been using artificial intelligence and machine learning for years to help us further that goal. Recent developments in generative intelligence and large language models offer powerful capabilities that provide the opportunity to take the experience of using Apple products to new heights.
That's interesting because a lot of people talk about Apple being way behind in the AI race, and Cook is essentially saying, hey, we've been doing this for a long time.
Most importantly, it has to understand you and be grounded in your personal context.
That's super interesting. This will be a theme throughout the entire keynote, but it's true. Apple has more information about you and your communication patterns and with whom than probably any other company, especially if you're an Apple user. So it's interesting to see how they're weaving AI throughout your personal experience and putting you at the center, right?
And of course, it has to be built with privacy from the ground up.
This is another big differentiator for them. They're really, really focused on privacy. That's not new. Apple privacy has been around for a while now. It's a big kind of central tenet in their philosophy.
And there are already some really impressive chat tools out there that perform a vast array of tasks using world knowledge.
Okay, so what he said right there, world knowledge, super important and very interesting framing. So without coming out and saying it, Apple is starting to differentiate themselves from all the other language models that are out there. They've created this term world knowledge. If you talk to ChatGPT, you can get world knowledge, but Apple Intelligence is really about you. It's about you personally. It's putting you in the center of the AI experience.
And it is deeply integrated into our platforms and throughout the apps you rely on to communicate, work, and express yourself.
Basically, the more you use Apple products, the more value you will get out of Apple Intelligence. That's the pitch. It's probably true. If it's not true on day one, it probably will be eventually. But that's also going to be the pitch for Google. It's going to be the pitch for Meta as well.
To understand and create language, as well as images, and take action for you to simplify interactions across your apps.
The actions one is interesting. That's essentially what Rabbit and Humane were trying to do. So Apple has sort of taken up the slack on their fumble and said, hey, the AI action model approach, large action model approach, hasn't really panned out yet, but we got your back. Don't worry about it.
For example, your iPhone can prioritize your notifications to minimize unnecessary distractions while ensuring you don't miss something important. Apple Intelligence also powers brand new writing tools that you can access system-wide to feel.
So prioritizing notifications totally makes sense, and especially if it understands what's important to you, it can actually do that effectively. Proofreading, we already have this, but we could use more of it, especially in terms of like tone of voice. Grammarly already does this really well. There's definitely been a lot of chatter around Apple killing Grammarly, but time will tell.
And they're available automatically across Mail, Notes, Safari, Pages, Keynote, and even your third-party apps.
Apple has an amazing distribution network. They have all of these hardware products and software products they can deploy Apple Intelligence out into, and that's really, a big part of the value prop.
You can create an image of them surrounded by cake, balloons, and flowers to make it extra festive.
I think that's really fun. Feels a little bit like a gimmick. That's going to get old really fast. Everyone's just going to expect some personalized AI generated image of themselves, or if they don't expect it, they'll get tired of it pretty quick. But, it's fun. It makes for a good marketing splash, I guess.
So you can say things like, pull up the files that Jaws shared with me last week, or show me all the photos of Mom, Olivia, and me, or play the podcast that my wife sent the other day. We're designed.
Sounds a lot like Recall that Microsoft launched. So interesting to see Apple basically following in their footsteps.
Suppose one of my meetings is being rescheduled for late in the afternoon, and I'm wondering if it's going to prevent me from getting to my daughter's play performance on time. Apple Intelligence can process the relevant personal data to assist me. It can understand who my daughter is, the play details she sent several days ago, the time and location for my meeting, and predicted traffic between my office and the theater.
This is so sick and so attainable too. The problem with all of the data that we have available to ourselves is that it's so hard to stitch it all together and make sense of it. And you wind up with a ton of apps that have these hyper specialized use cases that are pulling together discrete data sets and trying to add value to you. But what if instead, which is essentially what Craig is describing here, we take all of those streams of data that are flowing through our phones and our laptops, dump them all in a spot, and just let AI kind of churn through it and make sense of it for us and surface up valuable insights for us. Also, whose daughter is emailing their dad about the play? Maybe she texted, I don't know.
Let me tell you more about its architecture and how it's built with privacy at the core.
The privacy bit might be the most important thing that's coming out of this keynote, because this is really going to set the tone for a lot of these systems to come. If every other competitor just simply ignores how Apple is approaching privacy in the context of AI, Apple will eventually pull ahead significantly. AI needs a ton of data, and most people don't want to just hand over all of their data to some black box AI system. So earning the public's trust, earning the market's trust around privacy and security is going to be huge.
The cornerstone of the personal intelligence system is on-device processing.
Yep.
This personal intelligence system is comprised of highly capable large language and diffusion models that are specialized for your everyday tasks.
As a reminder, language models are transformer models, diffusion models map to image generation for the most part.
And Apple Intelligence uses its semantic index to identify the relevant personal data and feeds it to the generative model so they have the personal context to best assist you.
He probably means vector database when he's saying semantic index with a bunch of embeddings in it. Okay, a couple points here just to summarize. What Craig is saying is, if you need to do something simple and fast using our AI systems, it's going to happen on your device. It's just going to happen on your phone, it's going to happen on your laptop, and that's about it. That's how we keep it secure and private. The data never leaves your device, right? Pretty straightforward. If you need to do something more complex, more computationally heavy, we're going to send the data out to our private cloud and run larger models in the cloud. Another interesting thing is Apple is such a verticalized company. They have their own chips, they have their own hardware, they have their own software, they have their own distribution, right? And I think we don't talk about that a lot, but it's very true. They've been working on this project for a very long time. And the M1, M2, M3, and 4 chips that have been released have really set the stage for them to be able to deliver on AI in a way that's actually, I think, going to be pretty fast.
Independent experts can inspect the code that runs on these servers to verify this privacy promise.
They have the track record here too, right? There's been stories in the past where the FBI is trying to get data that's on an iPhone, for example, and they go talk to Apple, and Apple simply puts their hands in the air and said, hey, the way that we built our systems, we don't even have access to that data. The consumer, the end user, has to provide access. So they do have a track record here of privacy and security.
Siri now holds a great deal of information about features and settings and can answer thousands of questions when you want to know how to do something on your iPhone, iPad, or Mac.
RAG architecture.
Even
anyone?
if you don't know exactly what a feature is called, you can just describe it, and Siri will...
RAG is retrieval augmented generation. It's where you essentially have a separate data set that's unique to whatever your needs or interests are. So you have some kind of general language model here, and it coordinates with the separate data set that would, in this case, contain information about Mac OS and iOS and products and things like that.
This is made possible through significant enhancements that we're making to App Intents, a framework that lets apps define a set of actions for Siri, shortcuts, and other system experiences.
Okay, so App Intents sounds like essentially Apple's orchestration layer from what she's explaining here. Orchestration layer is essentially where you handle coordination between various prompts or various models and the applications that they're interacting with. So you have all your apps up here, your model stuff down here, and then a bunch of prompts and coordination in this orchestration layer. So App Intents, it sounds like they've invested a lot in that, and that's what's allowing for Apple Intelligence to do actions for you, like search through your photos and find all of the images of your friend in a pink jacket. What a great demo, by the way. That's really interesting to see. I love that not just the consumer is benefiting from Apple Intelligence, but they're making it available to all developers as well through this App Intents API. Smart move, really smart move.
That's just a glimpse of the ways in which Siri is going to become more powerful and more personal thanks to Apple Intelligence.
I love how they're starting to use Siri as essentially this glue that exists between all of your apps and all of your data. So Siri is not only the voice interface, but you can ask it to do things and it just goes and finds out what it needs to find out and then returns the right information or does the right action for you. If this works as well as they're demoing it, good Lord, that's going to be awesome. And what an upgrade for Apple users all over the world. Like, I seriously can't wait for this.
And all of these updates to Siri are also coming to iPad and Mac, where Siri's new design is a total game changer.
It actually reminds me a lot of a good Steve Jobs line, which is it just works. It's not that flashy. You just talk to Siri and then it just does the thing that you want it to do and it just works. Like very, very Apple, very on point. Good to see.
Well, now you can change the tone of that response to your colleague to make it sound more.
This is cool. They're basically they're constraining the sort of endless world of prompt engineering, and they're giving you three tones: friendly, professional, concise. That's a nice design touch. Very Apple, very nice.
Smart reply in mail. For example, when you need to RSVP to an event, you will now see suggestions for your response based on the email. If you say you'll be there, Mail identifies questions you were asked in the invite and offers
Okay, that's interesting because Gmail's had this for a while. It kind of like writes your response for you or suggests one, and it's fine. Like if you want to be super, super concise and formal or professional, like I can use that sometimes. But this follow-up with questions like, oh, and by the way, you were asked these yes or no questions in the email. I've never seen that before. What a clever implementation.
And you can even add Genmoji inline in your messages. Let your imagination run wild as you create just the right.
You know, there's actually an organization, like an official organization, that oversees new emojis being added to the like official emoji list. I wonder how they feel about this. Obviously, this is Genmoji, not emoji, but yeah, they've kind of changed the game here a little bit.
No need to engineer the perfect prompt. In a few seconds, you'll see Apple Intelligence creates a preview of what your image could look like.
That's another theme I'm seeing is Apple's really recognized how difficult it can be to do really good prompt design, prompt engineering, and they're kind of saying, hey, we've taken a lot of that complexity out of the equation for you, and we're giving you the necessary guardrails to have fun, be creative, express yourself without having to reflect so deeply about how to write the perfect prompt.
And choose from animation, sketch, or illustration.
I mean, this looks cool, but is this actually like more work than just picking an emoji? Like, I don't know, it's hard to tell.
With the Image Playground experience and Genmoji, you can create fun and delightful images right where you need them.
So this is basically their image generator app, as far as I can tell. Image Playground.
Here's Seb to show you more experiences enabled by the powerful capabilities of Apple Intelligence.
At least what they're demoing, the aesthetic of all the images created looks pretty similar. Like there's not a huge range there. So I wonder if they've really, really constrained the aesthetic or the styles as well, or if that's just what they happen to want to demo.
Because you can now use natural language phrases. So you can search for really specific things, like Maya skateboarding in a tie-dye shirt.
This is what I'm most excited about, is just being able to search across all of my images very, very specifically.
Apple Intelligence also makes it so much more delightful to create a memory movie. Today, when you want to use your photos and videos to create a movie yourself, like for your fishing trips with your kids, it can take hours of work.
I've never made one of these, but Apple makes them periodically on my behalf and sends them to me, and I will occasionally send them to my friends and loved ones. It's pretty entertaining.
Siri determines that ChatGPT might have good ideas for this, asks your permission to share your question, and presents the answer directly. You can also
So that permission ask to send data over to ChatGPT, totally get that, totally appreciate it. It is a little bit of a friction point. I might actually just go straight to ChatGPT myself instead of through Siri in this case. I don't know.
suppose you want to create a custom bedtime story for your 6-year-old who loves butterflies and solving riddles.
So OpenAI is not paying a dime for this partnership, and neither is Apple. It's a free partnership. But I start off by saying OpenAI is not paying a dime because Google actually pays a lot of money, on the order of billions, to be the primary search engine within Apple. Instead of Bing. So you can basically assume that as this partnership continues, OpenAI will have to eventually fork over dough to maintain their top leadership spot in Apple's massive distribution network.
Of course, you're in control over when ChatGPT is used and will be asked before any of your information is shared.
So basically, if you need world knowledge, we're sending you to OpenAI. If you need you knowledge about you, you're going to be using Apple AI models.
Apple Intelligence will be available to try out in US English this summer. We're bringing it to users in beta as part of iOS 18, iPadOS 18, and macOS Sequoia this fall, with some features and additional languages and platforms coming out over the course of the next year.
Okay, so US English first, and you're going to have to probably buy new hardware to play around with it.
So you can get things done in the way that works for you.
I'll say it again. The theme here is that Apple Intelligence is about you as an individual and all of the data surrounding you and your interactions with other people. And 2, it's about privacy and security. That is how they are differentiating themselves from all of the other players.
Built in a uniquely Apple way, we think Apple Intelligence is going to be indispensable to the products that already play such an integral role in our lives. We have a big week ahead for developers. It kicks off this afternoon with the platform State of the Union.
All right, I think that's it. Pretty interesting stuff. Like I said, my main takeaway is you're in the center of Apple Intelligence. It's private, it's secure. They have small models on device, large models in a private cloud. You're going to have to buy new hardware probably to play around with it. They're rolling it out to English in America first. And it kind of just works. They're using Siri as this glue to kind of sit in between all of the data and applications on your device and also be the voice interface as well as text interface, but the voice interface is, I think, more interesting and important. So Siri got a big upgrade. I'm excited to play around with it. I think that their approach makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of nice quality of life improvements that are going to come out of this. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you next time. Peace.